So we're inflating our tire right now using a line machine. It's a really neat feature of this tire, the line machine. We just hook up the tire and we can inflate it to whatever pressure we want. So if we go to the console here, I'm going to inflate these to 40 psi. I kind of like 40 just the way it rides. And then it will adjust our pressure to 40 psi on each tire. It's a really neat feature of this alignment machine, and we just disconnect them one at a time. The problem is it inflates it with shop air, and shop air is about 78% nitrogen and about 18% oxygen. So we're inflating it with both oxygen and nitrogen. Oxygen is a corrosive, it oxidizes things, and what it does, it leads to the tire deteriorating faster than it should. Where nitrogen is a preservative and it prolongs the life of the tire. There's a lot of theory out there whether you should do it or not. I'm of the mindset, you know, anything you could do that could help maintain your car is a good thing. If you could get more life out of your tire by inflating it with nitrogen, I recommend doing that. So that's why we have this machine right here. Very easy machine to use. It's slow, but it's very easy. It's pretty much just a hose you hook up to individual wheels, and then you gotta plug this into power. So let me get some power real quick. Okay, once when you have the power on, you have two, and this is where it gets confusing. We have two power buttons. You have this one right here, which is the main button, but then you also have this button right here, which is on. Both of them have to be pressed. Do the red first, then do the second. We have instructions right here for us, so that really helps us. Okay, so we got power. Now we need shop air. So let's get some shop air. And I'm just gonna hook that right up to the regulator right here, okay? You do not have to adjust this. I already have it adjusted for us, okay? So once when you plug that in, it will fill the tank up and it's ready to go. You do not have to turn this knob at all, okay? It's preset. All right, so now let's turn the machine on. Gotta hold it down. And little things like that, students tend to stop and don't think through the process. We're going to set this pressure to 40 psi, which is step 1. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and hook up our air hose, which is step 2. Come back to the machine. So we connected our air hose. If you connect the air hose too early, then you will get an error message, which we will show you at the end of the video. Now we want to not do a top off, we want to do a nitrogen conversion. We push and hold the fill purge button for 2 seconds until the LCD screen shows N2P. So let's go ahead and do that. So here's the fill purge, 2 seconds. There's N2P. And now it's going to go ahead and it's going to deflate the machine. So you'll see that it's showing you it's deflating it. So it's going to bring that down to about 5 psi. And you should be able to see the tire slowly deflate. You could hear it deflating, a little hissing sound. And that will slowly bring that pressure down on the tire. So there's less than 5 psi, and then it will fill it back up. Scale on the side showing we're deflating the tire. You can see that tire now is really deflating fast. Okay. We're down to 12 psi. And it varies. Sometimes it'll be 5 psi, sometimes 7 psi. When it reaches the end of this cycle, then it will make a beep sound, and then this will start to go up and the pressure will inflate. We're almost completely deflated, and we're waiting for the machine to beep and then change direction. There we go, went down to 5 psi, we're deflated. Now you notice the machine is going to inflate the tire, and it's going to inflate the 40 psi. And you can hear it inflating now. So we're at 31 psi. It's approaching full pressure, which would be 40 psi. Once when it's reached 40 psi, it'll make a beep sound, and then this will change to deflate again. It will repeat this for 2 more cycles. This is just the first cycle. Each time that it does this cycle of deflating and inflating, it increases the percentage of nitrogen in the tire, because you never fully deflate the tire. There will always be a certain amount of oxygen in it. So we're almost there. You'll get the 40 psi, and then it's beep, and then now it's going to deflate it. You can see that that bar graph is showing you that we're in a deflating stage. So it's beeping now, it's flashing. We did our third cycle. So again, what it did was it deflated the tire, then it inflated the tire, then it deflated the tire, then it inflated the tire 3 times. It did it 3 times, and it's telling you when the unit beeps and the LCD screen flashes, the target pressure, the tire inflation is complete. So this will demonstrate how you get an error message. So I'm going to turn the machine on. I have the tire hooked up to my air hose already. And there you got an error code. So what that means is we hooked up our air hose to the tire before we were supposed to. So again, step 1 is to set the final target pressure. So we skipped that step and we hooked up the air hose, and that's what it's trying to tell us. So we need to ask ourselves, why do we want to inflate our tire with nitrogen? Okay, so air contains a lot of oxygen. The oxygen reacts with other materials, and that usually results in an oxidation. Okay, nitrogen prevents oxidation. Okay, so that's really important, because what happens is the oxygen corrodes the aluminum and steel, and it reacts with rubber in a sense, corroding it too. Okay, so there's an oxygen. There's an inner liner inside the tire. That's a thin layer of rubber, which is the main function is keeping air away from the carcass of the tire. The inner liner ages, and more and more air molecules pass through it. So why do we want to use nitrogen? It's kind of like a preservative, and it keeps the tires from becoming dried out and corroded and oxidated. So on the side of the tire in this little like oval is a production date, and the 47, the first 2 numbers tell you the week of the year, and the last 2 numbers tell the year. So it's the 47th week of the year 2008. Again, here's another picture of, again, the 16th week of 2012. Okay, so tires do have a date on them, and nitrogen makes it where they will last longer over time, because it preserves it from oxidation. So the image over the right shows you a tire. As its age, it dries out and becomes oxidized. So we end up getting these cracks, and these cracks lead to more leaks, air leaks, and eventually they'll lead to a blowout. So that's why tires put that little production date on there. So if you start to see some kind of a cracking on the tire, you better check that date, and you better replace the tire, because the last thing you want is that tire to blow out when you're driving down the road. So look for these evidence of oxidation. And like I say, nitrogen is a preservative, oxygen is a corrosive. So oxygen inside your tire will speed up this process of oxidation, which then leads to air leaking and then eventually tire failure. So this is an animation showing you how much more stable the nitrogen is inside your air. and it's a larger particle too, so it's a larger mass. So it has a harder, it's harder for it to pass through the tire. Where the tire that's filled with regular air and oxygen, you can notice that especially as the temperature changes, the oxygen, which is the blue molecules, they tend to escape the tire a lot faster than the nitrogen does. And this animation also shows you that inner liner and how that prevents the air from seeping out of the tire. So nitrogen is just much more stable. It's less, it's cooler, so it doesn't fluctuate in pressure as compared to the regular air, in that we can inflate our tire with. Here's another brochure on inflating tires with nitrogen. So it's just a nice, simple pamphlet that people pass out, maybe Costco. So there is a claim that it improves fuel economy because the tire does not increase and decrease in pressure with the temperature outside. It stays more constant. So that's why it increases your fuel economy, increases your tire life. This is the main reason why I would change it, is because it increases your tire life by 30%. It does that by maintaining the proper pressure because it doesn't react to temperature outside. Okay. It does reduce rim and wheel corrosion. It improves handling performance. This is debatable. Reduces the chance of tire failure as much as 80%. Well, that is because it reduces or it increases the life of the tire by preserving it. Okay. And reduces running temperature because nitrogen runs cooler.